All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our What's Up with Whatnot webinar. My name is Deanna. I am from Team Vendoo, and I'm going to announce or introduce our guest in just 1 second. I just want to let you know, for anyone who's new to Vendoo, Vendoo is a cross-listing and inventory management tool with a ton of features to help you grow your business. We have recently done a collaboration with Whatnot. We now integrate with the Whatnot marketplace from Vendoo. So you can list your item, you can import from Whatnot. You can also cross list your existing inventory over to Whatnot. And we're going to go into all that in super fine detail. But first, let our special guest introduce herself and give you a little bit of background.
Hi guys, I'm Vixie. I work on the Whatnot women's wear team. So I primarily work with existing sellers, helping them grow their Whatnot businesses. I work with new sellers to get them up and running, and then kind of manage some special projects related to our women's wear categories.
Awesome. So for today's webinar, we are kind of going over two different things, or we have information for two categories of people. One is we're just going to like demystify what is Whatnot for all of our Vendoo users who are Whatnot users for the very first time and need to learn what Whatnot is and how it works and how to list there and how to make sales. And we're also speaking to our Whatnot users who learned about cross-listing for the very first time through Whatnot and are now coming over and joining Vendoo for the first time and need a little bit of information on how to cross-list. So our first set of questions is for our special guest. We're going to ask, what is different about Whatnot? Or can you briefly explain kind of the concept of live streaming shopping platforms?
Yeah, so Whatnot is a leading live stream commerce platform. What that means is essentially as a seller, you can list items in the marketplace like you can on other platforms like eBay and Etsy, but you can also host live auctions. So in a live auction, you will actually be live streaming and you can auction off pieces in your inventory. What this enables for sellers essentially is it unlocks the social piece of commerce. So as a seller, who is live selling, you can really develop a repeat buyer base because the live stream element lets you really get to know your buyers, what they want to buy, what they've liked seeing from you. You can kind of source with them in mind, and it really lets you unlock sort of that consistent repeat buyer base. Also, as a buyer on Whatnot, the exciting part of it is you get to really get a sense of what you're buying and who you're buying from. So you get to ask the seller lots of questions. You can have them talk a little bit more about, fit, condition, color, whatever it is you want to know about the piece that you're interested in. And you can also get to know them on a more personal level. So it kind of combines that commerce and social element.
So what are some of the specific product categories that perform on Whatnot? I know there's a lot of things you can sell.
Yeah, so you can find almost anything on Whatnot now. We actually started primarily as a collectibles trading platform. So the first thing sold on Whatnot was Funko Pops. They're basically like collectible figurines for anyone who doesn't know. From there, we expanded into different kinds of trading cards and sports cards. Now we have everything from luxury handbags, collectible sneakers, home goods, antiques, even food and beverage. So kind of anything you can think of, you can find on Whatnot. But the most popular categories are definitely the trading cards and sports cards, as well as coins, and then all kinds of apparel. So within apparel, we have everything from, like I mentioned, collectible sneakers, everyday sneakers, luxury bags, women's contemporary clothing, women's vintage clothing, men's vintage, and beyond.
Awesome. And the clothing was just kind of recently added, right? Do you remember about how long ago that was?
Yeah, so we actually launched apparel about 2 years ago now. We've obviously grown that category a lot since then, and now have a much wider array of offerings and a bunch of different kind of sub communities within the apparel remit.
Awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about why people should sell on Whatnot. So speaking of our people who are not currently on Whatnot, and a lot of our our users sell everything, but a lot of our users sell fashion, home decor, collectibles. Um, we have trading card sellers, we have book sellers. We have a pretty wide range, but there are a lot of clothing and home decor and collectible, those three categories specifically. What are some of like Whatnot's unique features, things that they could do in their live auctions? It just makes it a little bit different of an experience. Um,
Yeah,
what do you
so I
think?
mentioned the community piece a little bit, but that's definitely what sets Whatnot apart. The cool thing about Whatnot is all of these different categories in the platform kind of have their own unique communities. The people that are shopping on Whatnot, especially for true collectibles, are really true collectors. They're very passionate about what they're buying. They're shopping on Whatnot because, you know, they're looking to learn more from the hosts of the live streams. And find really interesting pieces that they might not be able to elsewhere. All of that community element is really enabled by the fact that we do have the live stream aspect as well.
Yep. And so while they're hosting their live, are there any features that they should take advantage of while hosting their live? I know that you can use moderators to help you um, kind of organize things.
Yeah, I can talk through some of those product features a little bit. So there's tons of different ways to run a Whatnot show. Different categories tend to, run shows a little bit differently. The moderator piece that you mentioned is just essentially you can assign another user on Whatnot to be a moderator in your show. What that means is they basically help keep track of all the requests you're getting, any questions you're getting, what you're actually running at that time. So they kind of focus on what is going on in the chat of a Whatnot live stream while you focus more on just the actual selling piece of it. So that's the moderator piece. Also just within, the selling features of a Whatnot live stream, there are kind of two main places that buyers can go to actually purchase within your live stream. So there's the auction piece, which is kind of the most popular feature. For auction, you set the starting prices of your item. You can select how long you want the auction to be, and then there's two different auction formats. So there's what's called sudden death, which is where, if you set a 30-second auction, that clock just runs out at 30 seconds, and whoever was the last person to bid wins. If you do what's called our standard auction, then every time someone bids, the clock goes back up to 10 seconds. So there's a couple different choices. People will use those different features for different kinds of shows typically. Some people run really short auctions, like a 5-second auction. Others do much longer than that. So there's a lot of different ways you can play around with just the auction itself. The other element of selling within a live stream is called buy now. So that's where you can actually just list an item for a set price. So let's say you have something that you're not willing to let go of for less than $200. You can list it in the buy now section as $200. People can make offers on it while you're live, but they can't offer anything less than 20% off the item. And then you get to decide if you want to accept their offers or not. And they can essentially buy that anytime during the live stream.
Awesome. And that actually leads me right into like the marketplace. So as in addition to selling live, I know that Vendoo has a lot of users who are interested in listing like to the marketplace and potentially never going live or going live less often and relying on the marketplace. What is the marketplace for Whatnot?
Yeah, so the marketplace is more like your typical platform in that you can list pieces for set prices. Again, buyers can make offers on those pieces. They can't go lower than that 20% off piece, but they can make offers on anything that's listed in your marketplace. The great thing about marketplace is that buyers can shop from you at any time. So you don't actually have to be live for them to purchase something in your marketplace. If they are looking for, let's use an example of Samba sneakers, they can search that and see all the Samba listings in different sellers marketplaces, and they can just go and buy those right on the spot. So the marketplace definitely gives sellers a lot of flexibility and allows you to make more passive sales than just selling while you're actually live.
Awesome. So, we talked a little bit about building the community on Whatnot, and I've been on Whatnot for quite a while, actually, even before clothing was on. I like to watch the auctions, and um, I've done a few shows myself, and I've have really noticed that building a community is important on Whatnot, but it's also very easy, but especially if you go to a lot of shows, which you should do if you're going to be a seller. You want to see what it's like, watch other popular live streams and get ideas from them, see what it's like. But when you're doing that, you can be in the chat and making friends and people follow each other. How important is kind of that community aspect to building your own personal brand on Whatnot?
Yeah, so the community piece is huge. To be, successful as a live stream seller or whatnot, getting involved in the community is pretty imperative. So I always encourage sellers that I'm working with, not just to get to know their buyers, but also get to know other sellers as well. The cool thing about the community aspects of whatnot, there are a few features that kind of enable more community engagement. So if you get to know some other sellers, you can organize what's called a raid train with them. So that is when, you line up your shows. Let's say each person does an hour-long show, and then they actually raid their audience into the next seller's show. So what that means is you can, if you're hosting a show and you have 100 people in your live stream, you can end your show and send that audience directly into a friend's live stream. So there's all different kinds of ways that Whatnot sort of enables you to interact with not just obviously your buyers, but also other sellers as well.
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah, I have noticed that those raid trains have become like more and more popular. So I'm seeing lots of those being set up, and that's great for beginners as well. We can even set up like a Vendoo uh user raid train coming up after we give people a little bit of time to get into
Totally.
Whatnot and find everything. So that would be awesome. I
Yeah.
am so we are don't we're going to take a lot of the questions at the end. So make sure you're putting your questions in the Q&A and not in the chat, because in the chat we might miss them. In the Q&A, it gives us like a checklist of everything we have and have not answered. So we are going to be getting to those in 1 second. Um, so that is why we are selling on Whatnot. So we're going to move into a section on how to be successful in Whatnot. We kind of already started this because we talked about community building. But besides the community building and branding, what are some of the things that people need to do in order to be successful on Whatnot, or make more sales on Whatnot?
So there's kind of three pillars to being successful and whatnot, I would say. The first is the community piece, which we've talked about a lot. The other is kind of developing your own personal brand. So what I mean by that is figuring out, what am I going to be known for on this platform? What am I going to sell? What format am I going to do that in? What kinds of pieces do I have on my marketplace? What kinds of shows am I going to run? And then the other piece that I kind of find to be the most important is just the consistency element. So I find this is true across a lot of different selling platforms, but on Whatnot, being consistent matters a ton. So that means, listing in your marketplace regularly, hosting regular shows. I always kind of compare Whatnot a little bit to cable TV in the sense that buyers will have kind of their favorite shows that they like to religiously tune into each week. So back in the cable TV days, if anyone watches that anymore, you would have, your favorite show that's on Tuesday at 9 p.m. And you're going to come back to that show every week. So if you as a seller can provide that experience for your buyers, it's going to be much easier to develop that repeat customer base, because they'll know when you're on, they'll know when to expect, to be able to join your shows. And that will allow you to really develop those loyal followers that are going to continue to buy from you.
That's awesome. Okay, so that's really good information. So, when people are loading their shows, so I have noticed that, and if you're flying through a ton of items, it does make sense. A lot of people have their listings set up very sparse, right? It just says like, items number 1 through 60 that are under 4 ounces or whatever, and it's not like a full listing. Do you think having preloaded shows with their full listings, like that you pull from the marketplace with the photo and the description and all that, so that you can have features like buy it now, pre-bids and all that. Do you think that helps your sales?
Yeah, so there's no one right answer to pre-listing or not pre-listing. It kind of depends on what you're selling, what kind of show you are trying to kind of create, and what kind of experience you're trying to create for your buyers. Some buyers do like kind of this surprise element of not knowing what you're going to pull next. But I have found that for new sellers and whatnot, it is a lot easier to attract an audience at the beginning if you do preload at least a portion of your shows. So if you're planning on auctioning off 150 pieces in a show, maybe you don't list every single one with pictures and a description in advance, but you want to list enough to really give buyers who might not be familiar with you a sense of what you're selling, so that they really know they can come into your show. Let's say they don't love the piece that you're auctioning off when they first come across your show, but that way they can go into your store and actually see everything else that you have coming up, or at least a few other pieces that you've got coming up. Maybe one of those interests them, and they're more willing to stick around if they have a sense of, what kind of inventory you're going to be running for the rest of the show, especially if they don't know you yet.
That is a great answer. Okay, so that is very helpful for our new sellers, just to give them a sense of what they need to do to set up their show. How much pre-work do they need to do? If you're coming from Vendoo and you're going into Whatnot, the great thing is a lot of your inventory is already in Vendoo, and you're gonna cross-list it over to Whatnot. It's already gonna have the photos and the descriptions and everything for you. So that's awesome. And you can choose to put all of that in your show or some of it in your show. It's very flexible.
Yeah, it's going to make your life a lot easier. That piece is awesome.
So before we get to the questions, now I'm going to go over just a few things that for everybody who is coming in the opposite direction. You are primarily a Whatnot seller, and you are now coming and joining Vendoo so that you can cross-list inventory. And why should you do that? So Vendoo is going to allow you to seamlessly cross-list your inventory, right? You can also import your existing Whatnot inventory. If you already have a bunch of items in your marketplace, you can bring those into Vendoo, or you can start new items in Vendoo and cross-list it to Whatnot. And then you can also put it some other places, like you might want to sell it on eBay or Depop, or Poshmark or Mercari. You'll be able to do that using Vendoo. Okay. So we have found that resellers that sell to 3 or more marketplaces have a sell-through rate that's 188% higher than those that only list to one marketplace. So even if Whatnot is your primary source of income and revenue, you're going to make additional sales just by cross-listing your inventory to other marketplaces. Okay. So you'll be able to do this through our desktop app right now. Right now, it's not in our mobile app. So you'll go to our desktop app to either import from Whatnot or take your Vendoo inventory and cross-list it over to Whatnot. So I briefly mentioned the marketplaces. We have 11 in total, but a lot of times when people are listing over from Whatnot based on what they're selling, they're going to want to be on places like eBay, where you can list almost everything under the sun, just like Whatnot. Mercari, literally the same way. If you do a lot of clothing and home decor, you're going to want to be on Poshmark. If you do a lot of vintage and Y2K and aesthetic type clothing, you want to be on Depop. And the list goes on. We actually have, Vendoo actually has a resource with all the marketplaces and what you should sell on each one. So I think Erin could probably put that in the chat for us, but you can also find it on our website under resources. So, and in addition, Vendoo offers some other tools such as on our mobile app, our companion app, you can download from the App Store, both on Apple and Google. You can take your photos and you can edit those photos. You can remove the background and you can change lighting and things like that. So that's a great feature to use. We have a very strong analytics feature that will tell you where, how many sales you've made versus how many listings you've made, what marketplaces you're selling them on, what are your most popular categories. We have an automatic sales detection and market sold feature for 5 of our marketplaces. We're aiming to have all of them, but right now we have 5 of them that will automatically detect your sales and delist them. That way, even if you sell in the middle of the night, you're not going to risk double selling an item. So those are some of our very popular Vendoo features. We have more like default fields and templates that will help you list super fast and be able to get your item onto Whatnot and to all of those other marketplaces as well. I want to reserve plenty of time for questions and answers because we have a lot. People are asking lots of questions. So the first
I've gone
question.
through a few. I've gone through
Okay,
a few and
good.
just answers for the straightforward ones.
Like easy ones. Okay. Will Whatnot be adding more specifics for clothing categories? I've noticed that specifics are available for things like baby clothing, but not for adult clothing.
So I'm not totally sure what you're referring to in terms of specifics, but my best guess is like, can you add, a size or more of a style on something? So we are continuing to kind of change the way that we tag items. So I'm sure we're going to get more specific over time, but you can get pretty detailed on how you describe the pieces you're listing. So there is like a free description section. You can enter anything in there, but obviously you can choose garment type, size, everything like that with just checking a box.
Awesome. Cheryl asks, can someone start a show by themselves, or do you need to have someone helping you? How do you keep up with what is sold and to whom?
So you can definitely start shows on your own. The nice thing about Whatnot is that the actual platform manages all that for you. So you just really have to worry about talking about pieces and running them. You'll basically get a report of your show after each one. That will tell you, who bought what, and then you can access that information at any time in what's called your seller hub. The other nice piece about this, and I think we got a question about this too, is Whatnot auto generates all of your shipping labels for you. And those come with packing slips. So after the show, you'll be able to essentially download all of those packing labels and slips, and it will tell you exactly what's supposed to go in each package. And all you have to do is essentially pack those items up accordingly and send them off with the label that you've been already given.
Awesome. And this is the perfect place to just talk about shipping a little bit. So the default is for the buyer to pay based on weight, correct? And then there's a few features you can have to change that.
Yeah, so our default shipping is essentially, like you said, the buyer pays for shipping. That shipping rate is dependent on how far the buyer and seller live from each other, and also the weight that the seller entered for that item. The other thing to note there is we do have a smart bundling feature. So if you're hosting a live stream and one buyer, let's say, buys 4 items for you, the platform will essentially auto bundle those items together. If they're, bigger items or slightly heavier items, the auto bundling might, separate those into 2 packages. And again, you'll get those packing slips that tell you, which 2 items go in this package and which 2 items go in this one. The smart bundling also works for the marketplace, which is really awesome. So if a buyer comes into your marketplace, and again, let's use the example, they buy 4 things, as long as you as the seller don't generate those shipping labels after they buy just the first thing, it will bundle those together too. So, if they come in and in the span of a 15-minute shopping spree, they buy, 4 different things from you. Once you go, to look at that order at the end of the day, those will be bundled together, or at least bundled up to a certain point. Like I said, might be broken out into 2 packages, depending on the weight of those items.
Okay. Awesome. And another question is, how does the application and onboarding process for Whatnot work? So this is a little bit different. For those of you who have not yet tried to sign up for Whatnot, on Poshmark or eBay, you just go to Poshmark or eBay and you start an account, and then you hop on and you start selling. But things are a little bit different in Whatnot.
Yeah, so if you sign up for Whatnot via Vendoo, you'll see you get prompted to apply. the application asks you basically questions about, how your business is set up right now, what your inventory looks like. You can include, links to, if you, let's say you're a vintage seller and you sell on Etsy, you'll include the link to your Etsy page, so that our application team can see what you're selling elsewhere. Once you get accepted, then you'll automatically be able to list on the Whatnot marketplace. So you can start sending over your listings from, your Etsy account for that example, right away. And then if you are interested in also becoming a live seller, what you'll do is you'll attend an onboarding call. That's basically a 45-minute Zoom meeting with our onboarding team. They're super helpful because they're going to walk you through the ins and outs of how to actually use the platform. So everything from scheduling a live stream, how to see who's following you, anything like that, all the shipping features, you'll be walked through on that onboarding call. So the idea is you attend that onboarding call, and that will kind of give you the rundown on how to sell live. Once you've done that, you'll get your live access.
Awesome. Is there anything like, are there any typical reasons why an application would not be approved?
Yeah, so the most common one is just that the application was submitted. The application that was submitted was incomplete. So sometimes people will submit an application and, they won't put any links into other platforms that they're selling on, or they'll put a link in that's, a broken link. So the application team can't actually see the page that it's trying to direct them to. That's the most common one. The other one is sort of inventory quantity. So, to be successful and Whatnot, selling consistently through marketplace or live stream is pretty important. So sellers that maybe only have, 2 or 3 items to sell are not really going to be set up for success and Whatnot. So sometimes applications will get denied due to that. And then the last piece is just inventory quality. Usually if people get dinged for inventory quality, it's more because the sort of pictures you submitted of your inventory really don't show what you're selling. And if the application team can't get a sense of like the quality that you're actually going to be listing on Whatnot, sometimes you'll get denied for that reason.
Awesome. I will say there's somebody in the chat who is having difficulty importing their Whatnot items into Vendoo. So the easiest way to do that is going to be to contact our help center. So when you're on Vendoo, if you are on the computer version, for example, you'll go down to the lower right-hand corner of your screen. There is a pink button, and that will open up a place where you can chat with our team and ask questions. You can chat with someone live. You can leave a message that they will answer later. So they're saying that they have hundreds of items on Whatnot, and it will only pick 43 items. So now, and it will only show you like a certain amount at a time, and you got to go down and it will load more items. So, but if you're having trouble with that, contact our customer service team directly to get help with that. So we have a lot more questions. So is there a way in Whatnot to see who has viewed your items on Marketplace?
So you can see if someone basically, let's use the Samba sneakers example again. If they, search for Sambas and they click on your listing, you won't be able to see exactly who it is that looked at it. But if that person bookmarks the listings, so basically they save it because they might want to come back to it later to purchase it, you'll be able to see that someone has bookmarked it. Also, when a buyer clicks into a listing on the marketplace, there is a pretty clear option for them to message the seller. So if they have any questions about that listing, there's a basically automatic way for them to message you and ask anything that might be outstanding, blocking them from buying it.
And from the same user, they're asking, is there a way to send offers to people who are liking or watching our Marketplace items?
I don't believe we have a way to send counter offers directly right now, but I'm sure that that's on our roadmap.
Awesome. Well, that would be a great suggestion. So just like Vendoo
Yeah.
users, we encourage our users to send their suggestions into our customer support team, and they get logged. And I'm sure Whatnot has probably a similar process. You contact customer service and say, hey, I have an idea for a feature, and they will, add it to their list of things they're considering. Is there a separate tab on Whatnot to direct buyers to the marketplace? I don't see it.
So
Yeah, they're saying they
yeah.
are unable to find it.
So the marketplace comes up when you actually search for items for the most part. So that's the easiest way to get to the marketplace. So you're interested in Southwest sneakers, you can search directly for that and you'll see all the listings come up. The other thing is, as a seller, on your profile page, your profile kind of serves as your personal marketplace. So if a buyer goes to your profile page, they will be able to see, the upcoming live streams you have and also all of your active listings in marketplace.
Awesome. I'll say, like, as a person who watches quite a few Whatnot shows and has searched for things, when I search for things now, since they've implemented the marketplace, when I'm searching for specific types of shows, people's marketplace items come up in the search. So if you have items preloaded in your marketplace and they have just, keywords in your title and description that a buyer might be searching for a live show, they will also potentially pull up your marketplace listings as well. So that's awesome. Okay. When a buyer submits an offer and the seller accepts it, does the sale go through immediately, or is there a grace period for the buyer to come through with payment?
So I think I know what you mean, which is basically, does the buyer get charged automatically once the seller accepts that offer? The answer is yes. So in order to basically submit an offer, you've got to have your payment method in there, so that once the seller accepts it, that your card will get charged on the spot. If for some reason that payment doesn't go through, you'll get notified and you'll have a chance to update that payment method. I think you have about like 10 minutes from once the offer is accepted.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, and I buy stuff on Whatnot a lot, and I will tell you, the second I win that auction, I get a little notification from PayPal saying that I was just charged for the item. So it is immediate. It does happen right away. Let's see. So for a couple people that are having trouble getting approved on Whatnot, so if they're having trouble with their approval, is there a place they can, is there a specific way that they can go? So what some people are saying that they applied a long time ago and their status says waiting for approval and it never moved forward from there.
Got it. So if you applied and you were never moved on to the next step, it might be because you're at the point where you have to do an onboarding to get full live access. It's kind of, I can't tell exactly by, not
Yeah.
knowing exactly where you were in the application process, but I would say the best thing to do in that case is just write into support@whatnot.com and let them know, hey, my application seems to be stuck at this stage. Is there anything I need to do on my end to make sure it gets pushed through?
Okay, so I'm putting that email in the chat there. Is Whatnot available outside of the United States? And if so, how does shipping work?
Yeah, so we have different shipping partners for different countries, but Whatnot is available in Canada, the US, obviously, UK, Germany, France. And we're always, rolling out new countries. Some products hit, different markets first. But yeah, we're available in some capacity in all those markets.
And so is it automatically kind of showing you people that are in your country or your region? Because like when I go and search shows, I don't see a whole bunch of different countries. I see mostly US shows, right?
Yeah, so you'll see, if you're a US based customer, you'll see US shows and vice versa. You can
So
turn on as a seller if you can, like, let's say you have a UK buyer who just loves this one vintage seller, they can access their show, and as long as that vintage seller has international shipping on, then they can purchase from there. Obviously, the shipping costs are just a little bit higher.
okay, awesome. So again, she said this a little bit earlier, but there is a feature or setting you can turn on or off for international shipping.
Yeah.
How does the sales commission fees or the seller fees look like on auctions and marketplace for Whatnot?
Yeah. So commission is the same across marketplace and auction. Whatnot takes 8% of those transactions. Then there's a 2.9 sort of processing fee for the payment processing. So it ends up, the fees are at just about 11% across marketplace and auctions. And then there's no fee to be on the platform or anything. It's just that commission.
All right, so no listing fee, just a sale, just a fee when it sells. Not sure what that one says. Let me go to the next one. Are the prices generally expected to be lower on Whatnot Marketplace versus other platforms? If we need to lower prices on items, is it best to do it on Vendoo or the original platform where we imported it from Vendoo? Okay, so it's like a Vendoo question. So I would say for your marketplace items, you're going to want to list it about where you want to sell it at, right? And keep in mind that they can make offers to you, but those offers can't be more than 20%. So on some places, some platforms like Poshmark, you can list $100 item and somebody can send you an offer for like $20, right? That's not going to happen to you on Whatnot. So you don't have to super inflate your prices thinking that you're going to get a bunch of lowball offers. So I would put it like about where you want it, possibly 20%-ish wiggle room if you want them to be able to do those offers. And that is for the marketplace. On Whatnot, you can control what your starting bid is. So I know you see a lot of big time high volume pallet flippers out there starting everything at $1. Don't let that scare you. That's their business model. You don't have to start your listings at $1. What do you have any suggestions about starting prices for auctions?
Yeah, so I always say, if you're a smaller seller coming on, getting started on Whatnot, for many people, starting things at $1 is not going to make sense because if you don't have a big audience yet, those pieces will probably end up going for $1. So as you're getting started, I would set your prices at a place that you're kind of comfortable with those items actually going at. There are some sellers that will come on and start their prices low, even when they have a smaller audience, just basically to sort of invest in their audience development. Those low prices obviously attract a lot of users. So that is one method, but I don't recommend it to everyone.
Awesome. Okay, so this question is on everyone's mind because we're dealing with so many different marketplaces and each marketplace does something different. So on Poshmark, you have to like share your items constantly in order to be seen. On Depop, you have to bump your items or pay for boosted listings. So this question has to do with that, is asking about the Whatnot algorithm. How does it work? Do we need to promote, share, or bump our items, or do we simply like set them there and forget about them?
Yeah, so more the latter. You can, just put your items in your marketplace. If you are going to go live, I would, direct some of the buyers in your shows to your marketplace so you can let them know, like, hey, you're seeing all these items in my live stream, but I've also got a lot more actually on my marketplace that you can check out too. The other thing is for live shows, you can actually promote those. So there are two different ads features on Whatnot called Promote and Boost. Promote is essentially used to raise your show in the category feed when you're live. So your show will appear closer to the top of someone's feed. And then Boost is actually more of a short-term ad, so that will last for 15 minutes. I recommend using Boost right before you're about to run, a high-value item, or if you're seeing a little bit of a slowdown in your audience and you're only halfway through your show. Boost is like a stronger, shorter effect.
I've actually, and that just made me think of something. So you can do giveaways on Whatnot, which is something you cannot do on Poshmark Live. So what I have seen, I don't know if this is my imagination or if this is an actual algorithm thing, but when people are running giveaways, does that tend to push them to the top of the algorithm search as well? Because I think some people run giveaways a lot because they think that is true.
Yeah, I think the effect that you're actually seeing is that when people run giveaways and put in their show title or their thumbnail image that they're going to be running giveaways, that tends to just attract a lot of buyers. Obviously, then the more buyers that are in your show at that time, the higher you're going to appear in the feed.
This is a good question. Is the entire description, so like when you're putting something in your marketplace or preloading it for your show, you've got a title and a description. Is the title and description SEO need to be SEO friendly, meaning like if people are searching for an item and they're looking for like cottagecore and you have the word cottagecore in your description, is that going to pull up or does it need to be like in the
Yeah,
title? Mhm.
doesn't need to be in your title. If it's in your description, it will come up in those searches too.
Okay, awesome. So that's very important to know. Title and description are both searchable. Some people are having some audio issues, but I have other people testing it and they're saying they're not having audio issues. So if you are,
Oh,
I did
cool.
turn on captions right at the beginning. So I have captions going and also we are recording this and there will be a replay and you'll be able to watch and hopefully whatever sound issues you're having will not be on the recording. Um,
Yeah, so sorry, guys. Maybe it's echoing because I'm in a small room. I'm not sure.
is there any recommended best times to go live?
This is probably the question I get the most. So the buyer to seller ratio on Whatnot remains pretty constant throughout the week. So that means, that there may be there may be more buyers on a Wednesday night. But there are also going to be more sellers that are going live. So there's the most activity across the board on weeknights. But again, there's a little bit more competition from a selling perspective. What I will say is that it's much more important to pick a day and time or several days and times that you can go live than worry so much about what that actual time is. So I would pick something that you can consistently stick to, and showing up consistently at that time every week is going to matter a lot more for your audience growth than the actual time you pick.
Awesome. Um, we do have a lot of some questions regarding exactly step by step, like how to import an item or how to cross list an item. So I will tell you, we have Vendoo has a really extensive help center. So as far as cross listing go, we have a very extensive help center that has everything you need to know in both a video format and written instructions. So however you learn best, you will be covered. We also have the same thing for how to import from Whatnot and some Whatnot related um, FAQs. And Erin is putting things in the chat right now for those people, just because we only have a short amount of time left and we still have a ton of questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go through the help center for that portion so we can get to a few more questions. Um, when I'm doing a live show with unlisted items that all have different weights, how does Whatnot determine what weight class to use?
Yeah, so when you're first doing shows and not sure what your items weigh, I would actually weigh them so that you can enter in accurate weight profiles when you're making listings. Once you've done, a few shows or done a bunch of listings on Whatnot, you'll kind of get a sense of, I'm listing jewelry. My rings are usually, however many ounces or whatever. Or I'm listing jeans. Jeans are typically X pounds. You'll get a sense of what the kind of weights are for those different items you're typically listing, and you won't have to actually weigh them. But when you're first starting, I would weigh them just so that you can be as accurate as possible. You don't want to overcharge buyers for shipping if you can avoid it.
Yeah. And I know this person is asking specifically about unlisted items. So those like where they don't put a lot of information. So what I've seen people do is they do a couple different ones. So they'll
Yeah,
have a listing for items that are under 4 ounces and a quantity of like 100, and they number each one. That's how they know which thing sold. And then they'll have another one for everything that's over 8 ounces or, they have like 4 different weights set up in their
yeah,
as a listing, even though there's no photos and stuff, and it will have the weight assigned to each one.
yeah. You can do it by garment type too. So like if you're selling both shoes and clothing in one show, you can have like a generic shoe um, profile and then, jeans or whatever it is.
Right. Let me see. We're almost to the end, but I'll try to just pick a couple quick ones and then we'll wrap up. I've been watching shows and bought a few things and I've paid separate shipping for each item. Is there a way to discount that for the buyer? So they should be paying a discounted rate for the additional items, correct? I mean, you're getting charged every time you buy something, but you're not getting charged a full shipping amount.
Yeah, so it may be that you have bundling off on your account. I would just check that first. But if you do have bundling turned on, the bundling can save buyers between 10% and 50% on shipping.
Okay, so we answered this one already. Um, in the marketplace, so someone's asking in the marketplace if you can have things on an auction. I think marketplaces buy it now, is that correct?
So that is coming soon. It's called async auctions. We are testing it in a couple of categories right now. And it should be rolled out to more users around the fall.
We have probably 5 or 6 people asking the same question, and that is, I've made a Whatnot account, but do I have to have a seller account in order to upload to the marketplace? I don't intend to go live, and the answer is yes. To be a seller, it doesn't matter if you're going live or not. You have to apply and get approved and go to the onboarding.
You don't have to go to the onboarding if you're not going to go live, but you do
Oh,
have
okay.
to submit an application and be accepted, which the application itself is pretty short. It shouldn't take you long at all.
Yeah.
And then you only have to go to the onboarding if you're going to do the live stream piece of it.
Okay. What are the most influential factors in the Whatnot search? Is it the SEO, the relevance to the keywords that they're typing in, or does it have also to do with like how new the item is? Was it just recently listed or is it an older item?
Yeah, I don't have the perfect answer on this. Product would know more than me, but I do think, from my experience, that the most important piece is relevance. But don't quote me on that. I can see if we've got any online resources on that too.
Um, can a buyer cancel a sale within a certain time frame um after they bought an item?
So a buyer can request to cancel a sale, but the seller has to actually accept it. Obviously that would mean refunding that buyer. So the seller can decide if they want to cancel it or not. You can get a cancellation request and say, sorry, my sales are final sale. Or if it's, let's say it's like a buyer who is one of your really loyal buyers, they're shopping from you all the time and they realize they purchased something in the wrong size. Like that's a good example of a time to allow a buyer to cancel an order, but it's really up to you.
Um, and this is more of a Vendoo question. Someone's asking if when they import their items from Whatnot to Vendoo, will they have to repost all their photos? No, if you have photos in your Whatnot listing, they will come over to Vendoo when you import them. So we answered that. We did go over shipping. There are a lot of shipping questions in here. Hopefully everything was covered under all these shipping questions that I've got.
We also have, sorry, just one note on
Go
the
ahead.
shipping stuff. If you Google like Whatnot international shipping or Whatnot smart bundling, there are the like first thing that will pop up will be an FAQ specific to your question. So we actually have a ton of online resources for those shipping questions.
Yeah, and
So
guys,
there's
for
a
those
link.
of you that are on Vendoo and are a fan of our Vendoo Help Center, which is like a ton of center articles on there, the Whatnot Help Center is similar. So things that people have asked them have become, Help Center articles, and there's a lot of FAQs and Help Center articles out there um, from Whatnot. Also, could you also talk about, I know Whatnot goes live, I think it's once a week or so, and does like a live show where they answer questions, like Whatnot as a company.
I honestly am
Are you
not
still
totally
doing
sure
that?
about that. If we do
Okay.
that, it's news to me, but it's a cool idea.
Okay. I think I just recently saw one and I didn't know if it was a one-time thing or if it was going to be like a weekly.
Yeah, I haven't heard about them at
Okay.
least happening right now, but I can look into it.
Um, okay, so there are actually many more questions and we're out of time. But if you have questions that we did not answer here, you can go ahead and you can send them to our help center. If you think if your question especially is about importing and cross-listing and using any Whatnot or Vendoo features, if your question's more related to how do I make more sales, if you feel like you could actually DM those questions to us on our social media, like on Instagram, and we'll be happy to answer those questions. Me and Aaron answer a lot of questions about SEO and how to make more sales and on reseller platforms in general, and we would be happy to answer your questions. So for all of our Vendoo users that are on the call today who have never been on Whatnot before as a seller, your next step is to go to Whatnot and apply to be a seller. Because even if you don't want to sell live, you definitely want to take part of the marketplace. You definitely want to be listing your items on the marketplace. And we have a Facebook group for Vendoo. Multiple people in the last week or so since we've had Whatnot live to everybody have posted that they have already received their first sale on just marketplace just from cross listing. So, very little effort on your part. The actual process to cross list on Whatnot is super easy. It's the least amount of fields of any platform that you have. So very little work to cross list each one of your items over. It can be done very quickly. There are this is in beta. There's a few little bugs that we're working out, such as like the category being 100% correct, the price coming over. There's a couple other small things that we're still fixing. But if you have any little of those little bugs that you come across, send those to our customer service team. We'll get those fixed for you because we did just launch this new feature. Um, and for those of you who are on Whatnot, who have not yet decided to cross list, hopefully we've convinced you that cross listing is important and you can sign up for Vendoo. We have a free trial. The free trial is an unlimited amount of time. 5 items per month is your limit, but you can test out all the features under that free trial with no restrictions. You don't even have to enter a credit card to sign up for the free trial. So we have some links in the chat so that you can sign up for Whatnot. We have links in the chat so that you can sign up for Vendoo. So give us just a little bit of time and we will have this whole thing recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel so you can rewatch it. And I know I saw some people saying they couldn't take notes fast enough because they were getting so much good information. So you can watch the replay shortly. Within the next couple days, we will have that up. Thank you so much to our special guest from Whatnot for coming today, for sharing all your information. Do you have any like last minute tips that you want to share?
I think
Or
I
advice?
covered it all. Definitely try it out. The first show, if you are planning on going live, can sometimes be the hardest because there's so many different features to figure out. But once you've done that first one, I think you'll be pretty hooked. So definitely worth trying. And thanks for all the good questions.
All right. Thank you everyone for attending, and we will look out for you at our next webinar, which will be coming up soon, and we'll start posting about that and sending out information as soon as we have it available. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.